I'm a firm believer in how we exercise should change our minds. It should change our mindset. We tend to think that every exercise does that, every exercise program we do. We look at fit men and women in the street and think, wow, they must have a really powerful mindset. But having been there, having been around the bodybuilding fraternity, I can tell you now that a lot of these exercise systems, a lot of these focus on the physical look, is nothing more than a mask to actually deter the person from looking at the character defects within them they don't like. So it's used as a cover-up. I did this. I won the Southern England bodybuilding title, and I used bodybuilding as a reason not to look at the stuff in my life that wasn't working, not to look at my deep unhappiness, not to look at my fragility and weaknesses. So exercise can be a really powerful way to do that. That's not really what it's about. It came from survival situations. It was supposed to develop real powerful mental strength. So I want to look at that today. Straight after the Okada bodyweight training system from the last video, I want you to ask deeper questions about yourself so you can get the most out of your exercise. So what are we really looking for? We're looking for real resilience and mental strength. We're not just looking to feel good. We're looking to accept ourselves fully. I've spoken about this before. So we're looking for the ability to keep going when things are really tough. And that could be going after a particular goal you set yourself. That could be even adhering to the character that you know you really are when everybody else around you is conforming and being obedient to tyranny and to things that aren't even true. You have to be strong to do that. You have to be sometimes that lone voice in the crowd and say this is wrong. You've got to have resilience for that. And that's where the right physical training can give you that backdrop of physicality to give you the conviction behind that stance that you're portraying in society. It was Martin Luther King that once said, if a man hasn't discovered a reason he's willing to die for, he's not fit to live. Now that may sound a really harsh comment, like something out of ancient Sparta, but he's actually pointing towards that robust, resilient mindset that's going to be focused on truth. A mindset like that hasn't got the room for lies. It hasn't got the room for playing safe. It hasn't got the room for conformity and obedience. It hasn't. So it's about what you can bring about within yourself that you know there's deeper stuff in there. We all know there's more to come out inside of us. We know that we've got so much potential within us. And physical exercise, I feel, is still an untapped area where people aren't using it to facilitate these changes. So we can ask ourselves, am I willing to endure extreme discomfort in order to stay true to the character I know is really who I am? Are we willing to endure the suffering and hardships that go with that? Will you aim at truth in the face of injustice? This is the essence of the warrior mindset, the warrior spirit that so many men are pursuing these days and they want within themselves, and quite rightly, because if the warrior mindset of men falls within a family or within a nation, then the whole structure of that society collapses. So it's the warrior mindset of the men, the warrior spirit that really protects and nurtures what's important. So I want to talk about stress and trauma. When we become young men, grown men, we will soon discover there's parts of us we don't like. It could be people pleasing, we can't stand up for ourselves, we avoid confrontation, maybe we're overly controlling, maybe we're jealous. These are all conditioned habits we've picked up from the past. And the whole idea of your life from that moment on is to wheedle out those chinks and those weaknesses in your armour so that you can actually access the man that you're supposed to be, that innate potential you have within you. And this is why I'm saying that a lot of exercise uses the actual performance of exercise to cover up those things, and that's not what it's there for. So you'll see it now. You look at people's posture and you can see that the stress and trauma of their life and their conditioned beliefs has embedded itself into their physical tissue, into their entire physiological structure. You see people with stooped shoulders. You see people with tight throats. You see people with their shoulders up around their ears. They're very hunched. They're raising their shoulders up in order to make themselves look smaller. You see this in people that were tall at school and they tried to make themselves smaller by stooping forward. Anything to take attention away from them. It can come out in the way people speak, the way people stand. The gait that people walk with, it's also within that. So here's the idea. Here's the really exciting thing about health and performance. If you've got this tissue that's got this trauma and stress within it, your conditioned beliefs, how is sitting in a chair talking to a therapist without any attention to your body ever going to release that tension? Here's the answer. It's not going to happen, which is why breath work, yoga, qigong are so popular in making that happen, and even some forms of Buddhist meditation. They go through the body first and through the breath first, and I understand that. Ideally, we'll have a combination of the two, but it's a really powerful way to do that, is to take your attention into your body and look at how your conditioned thoughts and your beliefs are actually linked to your physiological structure. You may find during the day you hold your breath through certain times of tension. If someone's confronting you about something, you may feel your body change and shrink in a certain way and react in a certain way. These are all perfectly normal, but if you pay attention to them, you can start to see how what you think and how you live is affecting your physiological structure. And that to me is really exciting if we take that into the fitness and performance world, how we can train in a way that's actually going to facilitate changes. So when I was younger, I taught Qigong, the Chinese self-healing exercise. I was one of the first in the country to teach it as a therapeutic body work to release tension and trauma. The effects were incredible. I'm still thinking about them now, and it was decades ago, because the effects were so amazing. Later on, I introduced my clients to more physical types of training, harder breath work, more faster movements, and I found that you could release trauma and stress in different ways in how the body moved. All fascinating stuff. To give you an idea of how physical training can change someone and their body, you can look at the original Jason Bourne film with Matt Damon. So he said, Paul Greengrass, the director, said to Matt Damon, I want you to go and do boxing for months before filming starts. Because he said, those guys walk in a certain way. They think in a certain way. It affects their whole body. So Matt Damon did this, and sure enough, he said it changed the way I thought, it changed the way I walked, and he said it had a profound changes, not just physiologically, but psychologically as well. And that's what these things do. They change the way you move, and in doing so, they change the way you think. BAFTA award-winning writer Jeff Thompson, a guy I personally met, great guy, he trained for 2 years full-time with Neil Adams, Olympic judo champion, and he said it changed the way he walked and the way he thought. He even moved like a judo guy during the day. That's what it does. Now, I'm not saying you have to take it to that extreme with those two examples, but you should be mindful of asking questions. What changes do I want to facilitate here mentally? What do I not like about the character that I have that's holding me back negatively? Maybe it pushes people away from me that I don't want to be pushed away from me. Maybe it's causing you to stay in the same work you've got when you could be so much more, because you just cannot stand confrontation. You need to write them down, bring them to light. Once they're written down, they come to light. They become more real and you can do something about them. But don't just train in some random ways, I need to be more confident, so hopefully this will work. Write down the changes you seek to facilitate within yourself, because then you can monitor them and see, am I getting better at that? Can I handle myself better in confrontation? Am I starting to think what else I could do with my life rather than where I am, stuck and not happy there? They are gauges of actual progression. There's things that you can look at and say it's actually working. I don't feel the same way anymore. I can now do this I couldn't do before. If that's not there, then I will relook at what you're doing. So I did this too. After I won the title, I realised that I went into a massive depression, because I realised that all those character defects and chinks of armour I had were still there. And actually that was devastating to me for a while. That actually led me to having a breakdown. But during that breakdown, I thought to myself, I'm not going to live like this anymore. I'm going to do whatever it takes to change. And actually, if I'm really honest, I was willing to die trying to do so. And now people may find that extreme to hear that. But I'd hated the way I was. So my mission, my life's purpose, was to be curious to what's on the other side and overcome the things about myself I really couldn't stand anymore and were holding me back in every single part of my life. And that's what things do. One single conditioned belief that's holding you back at work will hold you back in your relationships. It will hold you back in your life. It will hold you back everywhere. It's never just one area, it's everywhere. So I really understand that, and I thought, well, my main life priority is going to actually write the things down that I don't like about myself and go all out to overcome them. So I experimented with different physical aspects of training, different ways of movement, until I found the one that was going to facilitate the greatest change within myself. And that's what we can do. And I encourage you to do the same. Write down the things that you want to overcome. And if you're training, if you're a runner, maybe you've been running for years, but you know within you there's still some stuff about yourself that you're not overcoming. Maybe do something else rather than running, or maybe add something to it. Maybe add some martial arts to it and give it that harder edge. Maybe that's what you need. But it's just being aware of these things within yourself so that you can overcome them. Because exercise is not about covering up the stuff you don't want to look at. But yet that is so common. Believe me, I've been coaching for many, many years, decades in fact. And it's really common for people to exercise to give them some sort of pseudo confidence and courage so they don't have to look at the aspects of their life they're really not happy with. If that's happening to you, change it. Do something else. But make sure you have it written down exactly what you're trying to overcome.